What's going on, awesome people? I would like to cordially welcome you to the Why I Care IG Live series. Thank you for caring enough to dropping in. For those of you who are not familiar with the Why I Care IG Live series, very briefly put, it was a series that I wanted to put together to shine a nice spotlight on all the awesome people that are presenters or volunteers, guests to the Impact Retreat that we're hosting in Miami between April 28th and May 1st. It's a great 4-day experience that our team has created for Persian entrepreneurs. It's essentially all about personal and professional development. It's a very cool itinerary that we put together with some incredible individuals that are experts in a wide range of fields, from sales to marketing to PR to mind, body, and spirit to law. Really some incredible stuff. Community leadership. And if you haven't heard of the 2022 Unite and Conquer Impact Retreat, please click the link in my bio and get some more information. I promise you that if you are a Persian entrepreneur and if you are a business professional, that it's enough information to get you excited to come join us in tropical Miami, April 28th, May 1st. So it's only for 10 people as well. So it's a very exclusive group because we want to make sure that we bond very nicely together and make a massive impact. Speaking of people who have a massive impact, my guest today is our honorary guest speaker at the retreat. It's no other than my good friend, Bryan Talebi. We originally met because I was good friends with his older brother, Babak Talebi. So back at University of Maryland, College Park, go Terps. We met then, and, he was a bright kid back then. And I've been watching him afar from the past few years and just seeing him do some incredible stuff. And then really last summer or so, I saw that, my God, this guy is doing some epic stuff for, the community, locally and globally. And so just as a brief background, the man has founded and led a few different companies. So I'll just kind of give it very quickly, but I want him to do his own personal and professional background when I bring him on in just a couple minutes. He's a CEO and co-founder of Ahura AI, which has invented technology that enables people to learn 3 to 5 times faster than traditional education. That one is incredible and has gotten a lot of backing and is doing incredible stuff. He's also co-founded the Digital Guardians and co-hosted the first Digital Guardians gathering with Richard Branson on Necker Island to address existential risk associated with artificial intelligence. He's also co-founded AB Plus Ventures, which is a venture studio and venture capital firm that creates and invests in transformational artificial intelligence with the potential of impacting over 1 billion people. And if anyone's going to do it, that man can definitely do it. So stay tuned. You'll find out. Bryan is also the co-founder of Oasis Community, which actually in many ways reminds me of what we're doing at the retreat. He's doing it in his own space, pun intended, and you'll know why I say that. But Oasis Community is a regular private gathering of impact investors, impact entrepreneurs, global experts, and celebrities to address the world's biggest challenges. How cool is that? He is also the chairman of the board and first investor of Neural Tunes, an AI-driven company that uses music as medicine to solve for mental health issues. The companies that Bryan has founded, invested in, managed, and served on as an executive have a combined current valuation of over 3.1 billion. So the word Damish Gaddam needs to be put next to Bryan Talebi. So let's bring this good-looking man in. He's a cool cat, great energy. Help me welcome him. Drop some from. Hello, everybody. Seeing some beautiful people here. Appreciate you all. Comment, engage, ask questions. In 3, 2, 1. There he is. What's up, Bryan?
Hey, how are you?
Bryan, خوشی.
And thank you for that amazing introduction. I don't know if I can hold up to such a huge introduction, but I'll try.
I'm sure you will, man. So great. I even said it, I think, in my email blast today, man. Like I'm not just proud of what you've done. I'm proud of what you're doing. Meaning, like, it's one thing to grow a business, but you've been working on things that can positively impact the world, and that's the kind of shit that I love. That's the kind of shit that I want to support. And you've been so kind and considerate supporting my little mission and our little mission. And so I'm excited to have this chat and also introduce you to some individuals who don't know much about Bryan Talebi. So if you don't mind, take a couple minutes, as long as you like, to kind of give a little personal and professional background so people can become acclimated to you.
Sure, of course. So I was very fortunate. I started my career working at NASA when I was 16. I started my first company selling educational books to families when I was in college. So I realized that I didn't really have the ability to speak publicly or to recruit or to share my ideas. persuasively. And so I decided to start a company literally selling books door to door for 80 hours a week to learn how to do that. I had learned the 10,000 hour rule before Malcolm Gladwell popularized the idea in his books. And so I thought, how do I do this? So I was very fortunate. Again, I at its height, I had over 72 other college students working with me. I was making $1 million a year as a college student, which was interesting.
Amazing.
And then I started a consulting firm in my 20s that I sold. And then I had an opportunity to go back to Iran to visit. And as you know, in Iran, there's a lot of very big cities like Tehran and Shiraz and Esfahan. They have a very robust tech community. It's, the number 19 GDP in the world. With that being said, there's also some very backwards areas as well, like where I was born in Zanjuran. And I was very fortunate to go and be able to visit that part of the country as well. And what became very clear to me is that, intelligence and capability are equally distributed across the world, but access to opportunity and resources are not. So when I came back, I decided to work for a company called Zokdoc under Cyrus Matsumi, another Persian guy, built that into a unicorn, worked as an executive at a series of other AI companies like Vesterly and Souls, and Bizibo helped. Bizibo became a unicorn. The other two companies had exits. And I decided to found Ahura. Now, the reason for that is, I don't know if you can relate to this at all, but I grew up watching and reading a steady diet of things like J.R.R. Tolkien and Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Star Wars, Wheel of Time, things like that, where there was some level of existential risk for the human race. And these heroes came in and saved the day, literally the cavalry coming and saving the day. And it was really interesting to me because growing up in the 90s, while I was in middle school and high school, I read a lot of Stephen Hawking. And he used to talk about how there's 17 different ways that we could go extinct as a human race. There's, of course, the ones that we can't control, like a super volcano exploding or an asteroid strike or an alien invasion. But there's a whole slew of things that we can control and impact. I was like, wow, that's pretty bad. And he says that we can go extinct within 100 years. So then in the 2000s, when I was building my career, I kept looking around and saying, well, where are the heroes? Where's the cavalry? Who are the people that are coming to save the day? And eventually got frustrated because I realized nobody's coming. And so now, of course, with what's happening in the Ukraine right now, we're at the precipice of nuclear war. The biodiversity loss is accelerating. That's been happening. We've been watching that happen slowly. We've been watching catastrophic climate change change the world, and we know that we're way past the point of no return. That's going to massively impact us. There's endocrine disorders that could cause the human race to go infertile by 2040. There's a probability or possibility that we have an AI singularity or AI weapon systems. So there's all these different things. And I realized, nobody else is solving this. I was at a point where I could retire, and I said, you know what? Instead of retiring, I'm going to dedicate my life to solving some of these problems. But the thing is, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I'm not the most capable person. And so I realized that I can bring and convene other people that are way smarter than me and more capable than me and have certain skill sets or resources to be able to address some of these issues. So that's what we did on Necker Island. I've known Richard for almost 4 years now. And so I told him, hey, let's build the intellectual successor to the elders. And he thought that was a really great idea. So we brought together some of the top AI people from around the world to come together on Necker Island to address some of these systemic risk issues around existential risk around artificial intelligence. I'm doing the same thing in the crypto community. I'm doing the same thing in the space race community, where I'm bringing together some of the top leaders of space launch companies and space tech companies, as well as the administrator of NASA and others, to come together to talk about these issues, about how we can work together to become a multi-planetary species. And of course, all of the companies that I've founded and I invest in are ones that have the capacity to use technology, specifically artificial intelligence, to address some of these existential risk issues and catapult us forward in our evolutionary journey as humans, and hopefully save the day.
Incredible stuff, man. So my first question is, how do you allocate which one to put the most amount of energy and effort into? Which one of them is like your you're the baby, the one that you really most desperately want to make sure gets the public's support or attention.
Well, that's definitely Ahura AI. That's my baby. That's what I've been working on for 4 years. And look, I think that it underlies all of the other problems and projects that we have. And indeed, Neural Tunes even uses the AI we built out of Ahura, right? And a lot of the companies that we're going to be launching through the Venture Studio will also leverage the AI that we've built. We've built a pretty robust AI. And so, look, I'm sure you're familiar with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 goals that the nations of the world and the corporations of the world came together to say, hey, these are the 17 problems we're going to solve by 2030. Now, of course, let's put aside we're way behind schedule. And I've addressed this. I've spoken at the World Economic Forum about her and other things. And one of the things I said to them is like, hey, guys, we need to really put our heads down and get to work because we're way behind. We need to stop patting ourselves on the back and actually get some work done. But SDG number 4, education, underlies all of the other challenges that we face. Because if we can 10x the number of educated people here on Earth, so right now we have around 6.6% of the global population has a college degree. If we can 10x that number, if we can 10x the number of scientists and researchers and technologists and entrepreneurs and computer programmers and everything else, I believe that we can use that unlocked intellectual capital to then address all of the other issues that we face as a species.
And what I really liked about one of the videos that you have on Ahura is, like your story, the catalyst was, you went back home to Iran and you went to your village and you looked around and you're like, man, if these people had the same opportunities that I have right now, they'd be so much better off. So that's why you made that technology. Is this technology primarily for underprivileged areas, or is that something you would like to kind of just expand to even the public school systems? What's your vision with regards to the educational aspect?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really for everybody. Now, when you're building a tech company, it's absolutely critical that you take one market segment, focus entirely on that, and make sure that it works for them before expanding into other market segments. So the segment that we're addressing right now is the corporate upskilling space. Because of the fourth industrial revolution, the great resignation, everything that's happening simultaneously. So we have what is called the fourth industrial revolution. Artificial intelligence and automation is replacing somewhere between 40 to 60% of the jobs that are done globally. Okay, that's the baseline. Now, this has happened before, 3 times. And so the human race is really good at inventing new jobs for people to do. The difference this time around is that whereas previously the human race had 1 to 2 generations to retrain the human population, this time around we have 5 to 10 years, which means we need to take a cohort of people who never went to college, have barely made it through high school, and haven't been upskilled in decades, and we need to take them from becoming truck drivers or warehouse workers and train them to work in the tech space. So that's what we're doing with Ahura. We're able to do that 3 to 5 times faster and more effectively than traditional methodologies, and we're able to do it for 1/10 of the price. And so we sell this technology to large corporations that then upskill their existing employee pool. Now, for every license that we sell to these corporates like Walmart and Amazon and Apple and others, we give away, Iman, a free license to members of underserved communities globally, especially with the gender and diversity lens. Because what we've found is when you enable women in underserved parts of the world, in sub-Saharan Africa, in India, in favelas in Brazil and other places, to have access to resources and education and be able to have dignified work, that percolates within all of society. And that enables those communities to build from the ground up and move much faster than if you were to, for example, give those resources to the men or just give cash distributions to people.
That's incredible, man. Like, I feel like I can go on and on asking about this technology and the positive impact that it can have. But I do want to change gears, if you don't mind, talking about the impact retreat, just because we're limited in time. I want you to kind of answer 2 things. One is, what is it that you primarily want to be sharing with the entrepreneurs that will be coming to the retreat? You know, there's so many things that you can talk about experience wise, whether it's, you know, raising $100 million for a business, whether it's being able to get access to celebrities to come and support your vision. You know, there's multiple things that you have experience in. The first question is, what do you think will be the most beneficial for these Persian entrepreneurs that are going to be coming? And in general, what attracted you to helping us out here? You know, this is what I look at, is the fact that I put out a call for help for all my friends out there, and you were one of the people who graciously raised their hands, and they're like, I'll come from Vegas, I'll come, because you enjoy sharing your experiences. Not a lot of people do that. They don't want to spend too much time, you know, spreading their knowledge with others. What was it that you're like, you know what, this is worth my time going out there because we appreciate it. I want others to know what your logic was behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me begin by saying that one of my mentors, Naveen Jain, once told me that if you want to impact a handful of people, you build a nonprofit. If you want to impact 1 billion people, you have to build a for-profit entity, because you have to have the capability to be sustainable and to take the profits back into the business and continue building it out. And so there's 3 things that I want to share, and I'll share probably more, but 3 major areas that I want to share with the community at this event. Number 1, how to build a $100 million company. Because if you're building a $100 million company, that means you're having an impact on a significant number of people, and you're building something that can be sustainable and that's going to stand the test of time long after you die. So the number 1 thing is, how do you build a $100 million company and make it sustainable? Because I think that if we can increase the number of entrepreneurs that are successfully able to achieve their goals, then we can solve these problems. Number 2, how do you attract the right people to build with you? And how do you determine the project that you want to work on? So look, at the end of the day, I've tried before to build something by myself, and I've hit walls because there's a limit to what you can do. But if you can continually surround yourself with people that are smarter and more capable than yourself, your company will grow faster and you'll be able to impact more people. And number 3, I want to share with everybody, how do you work with, how do you create a vision that will get other people excited about what it is that you're doing, whether they're celebrities, whether they're your mentors. So Richard Branson was an asymmetric mentor of mine for decades. So I read all his books and watched his interviews. He didn't know who I was. And then I got to know him and a friend, and we actively hang out together, and he helps me with my projects, right? So how do you get these mentors? How do you get people from around the world to be excited about what you're doing, to come in and help address this challenge that you're passionate about? Because again, you can't do it by yourself. You have to have the resources, you have to have the team, and then you have to have the mentors and society as a whole come together to help you do that. So I'm going to break it down basically step by step, walk through how to get the resources, how to do all the things that you need to do in order to accomplish these great feats. And to answer your other question, the reason I did this is because of you, Iman. As you mentioned earlier, we've known each other since college. I've always actually looked up to you as a college student. You were a bit older than me in college, and you were always able to convene people for Charshan Basuri and Nowruz and other things. And you were always you had so much presence on stage. And then over time, I watched everything you did with Exclusively Entertainment. I saw all the things you did nonprofit-wise to help the community. And when you shared what you're doing for the Iranian American community, this community of people that are third culture kids that aren't really fully Iranian, they're not fully Persian, they're not fully American, they're kind of some mishmash of everything, that sometimes lack the resources and support to achieve their goals. And that you're building this amazing thing that gives them the ability to have the resources around them, the training, the mentors, and so forth, to enable them to rise up and elevate them, to impact, to unite, and really build something cool. I thought, hey, this is a great opportunity to help a friend and to help people that want to help themselves, people that have a big vision, but potentially haven't, been fortunate enough, like I was, to have the mentors to teach them how to do the things that, I've accomplished. Because look, I only stand on the shoulders of giants. The reason I'm able to do any of the things I've done is because of all the things I've learned from other people. And so I want to give that back, especially with my Persian American community.
I mean, I love that, man. I'm very humbled by your support and your kindness, man. And you know, the entire premise behind Unite and Conquer is truly joining hand in hand and whenever possible, uplift others, you know. And so I just appreciate you being a part of this journey, man. And I have no doubt that we're going to be able to get a group of people together that collectively can make a big impact too. So thank you for that. On a closing note, I want you to kind of spend some time talking more about the relationship you have with Richard and the nonprofit that you have, because I know that it's very near and dear to what you all are doing. And I would like for you to just kind of share as much you like about that.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, it is a little wild. It's a bit surreal for me, given that I made so many of my decisions about business, around relationships, around all the sorts of decisions I made about my life based on what I read in his books, based on interviews that he had. And I actually told this to him in front of a group of AI people, but in front of him, I shared this with him. And so then being able to build a project together with him and have him mentor me and so forth, I think is quite surreal. It's wild. I never expected this to happen. But so one of the things, and I was very fortunate, one of my investors introduced me to Richard, and then he liked me enough that he invited me to come back to Necker and spend some time with him. But when I realized that AI has the potential to either A, massively improve the lives of billions of people around the world, or B, cause us to go extinct, I realized that this is something we have to address. Look, Elon Musk talks about how AI is 100 times more dangerous than nuclear weapons. And he's right, it is. And so Richard and I were hanging out in a hot tub in April of last year. We were just talking about stuff, sharing memories, and I just take every opportunity to hang out with him. And I shared with him, I'm like, hey, like with the elders, you're doing obviously great work. And he shared some stories with me about the elders that, I hadn't read and wasn't publicly available. That just blew my mind. And of course, at this point, the late Nelson Mandela has passed, and the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu has passed, and the late former Secretary General of the United Nations, Kofi Annan, has passed. Jimmy Carter's still alive, but he's quite old. And of course, the work is continuing. They're doing amazing work. They have hundreds of amazing, impactful people working on solving a lot of geopolitical conflicts and humanitarian crises and things like that. And I shared with them that, there's this big challenge around artificial intelligence. So he asked me a series of follow-up questions, and I told him more about it. And I shared with him, hey, I think it's time for us to build an intellectual successor to the elders that focuses on the challenges around artificial intelligence. And I shared this idea of what would happen if we bring together some of the top AI people from around the world and ask everyone to, check their egos at the door and check their international competition at the door, because these are all people that compete, very hard with
each other.
on a level. To say, look, what if we put that aside for the time being? Because if we all die and go extinct, it doesn't matter how many commas we all have attached to our names, because we don't carry any of it with us. How do we all get together to figure out what does ethical artificial intelligence actually look like? And how do we then come to an agreement on leveraging our shared resources, our shared reputations, to apply pressure to bad actors who would use AI and data in such a way that it would endanger the human race? And he thought that was a great idea, so that's what we did. So in December, we co-hosted the inaugural event of Digital Guardians. We brought together people that represented Google and OpenAI and Amazon and Apple and a number of other organizations at an extremely high level, and came to an agreement. Now, there's a lot of work still left to do. We're continuing that work digitally and asymmetrically, and we're going to have other large events, both in the United States and abroad on Necker Island. I'm also in conversations with the royal family in the United Kingdom about throwing an event there at one of their castles. I'm in conversations with billionaire Jay Bloom. He's in the process of buying the one in Bel Air, which is a 105,000 square foot mansion. We're looking at potentially throwing an event there. But really the goal is to bring all these people together, expand the network, bring people that are PhDs in AI, that represent these large companies in AI together to address this existential risk from AI, and hopefully mitigate that risk, and instead make sure that we're using AI to improve the human race and catapult us forward in our evolutionary journey, so that we can bring billions of people out of poverty and mitigate some of the human suffering that we experience.
You know what I love, Brian, is the fact that, there's so much, there's so many powerful, greedy, rich individuals that everybody thinks that they're not doing enough to unite the world. And it's so good that you've been able to find the best ones out there to be able to hopefully make that impact that you like. Where did this desire to be such an ultimate uniter? Because when I think of Unite and Conquer, when I think of ultimate uniters, like, you generally come front of mind, which is why I really wanted to be a major part of this, But what do you think? Where did this come from? Where did your passion to unite people and bring so much good for the world? Where did it stem from?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for the compliment. I think it came from I tried to retire several times, once in my late 20s and then once again in my 30s. And, I had enough resources to be able to be comfortable for the rest of my life and go off and do my own thing. And the first time it lasted 4 months. The second time it lasted 2 months. I just got bored. I don't think I have the DNA to ever retire in my life. So that's number one. Number two, I realized that I have a choice to make. I can take the money that I've made and go off and, hang out on an island and watch the world burn, or I could do something about it. And I don't think I would be able to live with myself if I chose the former. And so, look, my dad always taught me growing up, even when we were in a refugee camp in Turkey, he used to tell me from when I was really young, people who have any kind of capability or intelligence or resources have an obligation to the rest of the human race, because we're all one community. And I took that to heart, because look, I have a little bit of a different perspective of how we all live. I don't know if you're aware of what mycelial networks are. It's something that scientists and botanists just very recently discovered over the past couple of years. It turns out that trees and forests live around twice as long as trees that are on their own. And nobody understood this for decades or centuries. Nobody knew why. And so finally, a couple of years ago, a bunch of botanists and scientists learned that there's a mycelial network underneath the ground that connects all these trees. And so if a particular tree is being attacked by a parasite, or if it needs more sugar, or if it needs any resources, it sends out a signal, and the other trees and shrubs and everybody come together and send it the resources it needs to fight off a parasitic infection or to live. And I was like, wow, this is so wild, because I always had this perspective that we as a human race are part of a much larger macroorganism, that we're not just individual entities, that we all exist in a shared ecosystem where we all impact each other. And so if a bunch of people are suffering, I can't be happy. If half the population is dying, or if people are being bombed in Ukraine, or people are suffering in other parts of the world, I can't just sit back and be happy. I have to do something to help. And so that's where all of this comes from, to try to uplift the entire species, because by helping everybody else, I help myself in the long run. And ultimately, in the long evolutionary journey of the human race, we're basically babies, right? We're a very young species. Yeah. And so I want to see us continue to grow and thrive over the coming eons.
When you give the example of the tree and the forest versus on its own, basically we need each other. We need to be each other. We need to support each other, and that's really what Unite and Conquer is all about, man. And this is why I love the fact that you're lending your name, your experience, your heart and soul into this. Like, and it means a lot to me, man. I genuinely appreciate it, and I hope that we can grow this into something much bigger and do these retreats in cities around the world, man. And I hope that I always have your support. Because I think we could do great things together, man. So I commend you and congratulate you on everything you and your team have done. Thank you so much for waking up in the morning and caring for other people. And don't retire, man, because the world needs more people like you. So much love to you, man. I appreciate you making time, and hope to see you soon. And looking forward to seeing you in Miami, April 28th through May 1st, man.
And thank you for all of the tireless work you're putting into this. And thank you for being such an amazing leader. I'm excited to here and help you along the way. And hey, man, anything you need. And for anybody that's listening, awesome, I recommend you join us. You're going to have a fantastic time.
Yeah, for sure, man. I definitely can't do it without a team. And I'll be right in the front with a pen and a pad listening to how to grow $100 million business, because that's what the hell I want to do with Unite and Conquer, so that we can do a lot of great, epic shit together, man. Much love to you, man. Great talking to you. Thank you again for your time. Take care. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And Saturday, it'll be Pedro on Farsi, 3 p.m. Eastern. More information to come. Link in bio. Impact Retreat, Bryan Talebi. Shabbat Chosh. Ciao, ciao, ciao.